Stellar Grace. Interact with her, and ultimately she gives you the possibility to teach you a bunch of new spells. There's even one sorcery that requires Souls games, but only like spending a few you will add more spells to her repertoire. And fortunately for us, there is such a scroll nearby. Go a bit to the north of her, exactly to this place on the map, and you'll find a body laying on top of this structure with a royal house scroll that you can pick up, right? But if you provide her with scrolls, she will add more spells to her repertoire. And fortunately for us, there is such a scroll nearby. Go a bit to the north of her, exactly to this place on the map, and you'll find a body laying on top.
You must be the new Tarnished. You do well to steer clear of a Gill Lake, fledgling. A dragon roosts there, and it's as fearsome as it is majestic. So, unless you're mad or wish to be burned alive, stay clear of the lake.
Top of this structure with a royal house scroll that you can pick up. Present the scroll to the sorceress again, and she will now know 2 extra spells to teach you. These are are the glint blade phalanx and the carrion slicer. Now we are starting to talk because these are both useful spells. Especially the carrion slicer is a really good spell. First of all, it only costs 4 FP and it does insane damage in return for it. So definitely get it. Kill them with fast, powerful, safely. If you the other spell, a unique benefit that makes it worthwhile in some situations in terms of damage. Phalanx, and then when you face the enemy through them, having a guaranteed way of dealing damage to the enemy. It's definitely a useful spell against some enemies. Think of enemies that have a lot of dashes or are like hyper aggressive and you don't really have the time to stand still and be locked in a casting animation. Now that you got 2 new actually useful spells quite close to the starting area, it's time to go to other areas and really start making your mage powerful. And it's time to pick up something very important, a huge upgrade to your staff as well. This is the meteor. And you can pick it up at the start of the game. You can find it and if you're still in the starting area, all you have to do just go to here on the map and interact with the chest. In our case, it's very beneficial as we now get to go here. Just avoid all the mobs though on the way and quickly move towards the spot with the meteorites. Because if you're doing this at the very start, the mobs will completely destroy you. Now this staff is good for 2 reasons. First of all, it has S tier scaling, which means that its damage output is insanely high. And the other reason I will get into later. First of all, it has and quickly get to go here. Just go to here on the map and interact with the chest. This is actually a trap, but in our case it is very beneficial as we now get to go here. Just avoid all the mobs though on the way and quickly move towards the spot with the meteorite staff, because if you're doing this at the very start, the mobs will completely destroy you. Now this staff is good for 2 reasons. First of all, it has S tier scaling, which means that its damage output is insanely high. And the other reason I will get into later in this video. However, there is something that does not matter that much, as I that I wait till the 4, so I spent those stones. The meteorite staff with S tier still good stuff. So definitely pick up the meteorite staff as soon as possible. Nearby the meteorite staff is a very powerful spell that you also want to, and it has a lot of meteorite staff as soon as possible. Nearby the meteorite staff is a very powerful spell that you also want to pick up, and it's going to be a staple spell that we will be using a lot. This spell is going to melt the HP bars of any enemy. It's the rock fling spell and it's really close to the staff. Actually, it's right here. Go down the stairs and open the chest to get it. This spell does insane damage, doesn't cost too much FP, and it also can function as an AoE. Useful spells quite close to something very important. A huge upgrade to your staff that you will actually use for quite a time. This is the meteorite staff, and you can pick it up pretty much at the start of the game. You can find the meteorite staff exactly here. It's in the swamp near Celia Crystal Tunnel.
This way. Right this way. Welcome. Please, buy something. I'm hungry. I've been hungry so long. Please?
And if you're still here on the map and interact with the chest, this is actually a trap, but in our get to go doing this at the very start. First of all, it has S tier scaling, which means that its damage output is insanely high. And the other reason I will get into later, something that unfortunately meteorite stuff all the way till it was plus 4. So S tier scaling still outperforms the plus 4 upgraded stuff, as you can see in this meteorite staff as soon as possible. Nearby the meteorite staff is a very powerful spell that you also want to pick up, and it's going to be a staple spell that we will be using a lot. This spell is going to melt the HP bars of any enemy. It's the rock fling spell and it's really close to the staff. Actually, it's right here. Go down the stairs and open the chest to get it.
What's up guys, thanks for stopping by, I hope you're doing good. Today's video is going to be all about how to level up in Elden Ring. If you just started the game and you haven't figured out how to level up yet, or you're brand new to these type of Soulsborne games, this video is going to be perfect for you. Let's jump into it. Okay, so when you first start the game and you finish the tutorial, you step out into Limgrave for the first time. But leveling up is something that only becomes possible after triggering a specific cutscene in the game. And because the game is open world, it is actually possible to miss this. So to unlock leveling up, we want to go right directly from the beginning of the game at Limgrave and just keep heading in this direction, hugging the right side of the map. This is what the location on the map looks like before you've unlocked this part of the map. And if you have unlocked the map, this is what it will look like with the map revealed. You might have to fight off a couple of enemies on the way, but you should be fine. What we're looking for is this camp filled with enemies. And next to the camp is a specific site of grace that triggers a cutscene. So you can see here that the site of grace is just to the right side of the camp. So what we want to do is we want to go and rest at this site of grace. This will trigger a cutscene, which I won't show in this video because I don't want to spoil it for you. But after the cutscene, there will be a dialogue option that you do want to accept. Once you've accepted the dialogue option, leveling up will now be unlocked. And you can now level up at any site of grace in the game. Now we've unlocked the ability to level up, you're going to need some runes to spend on upgrading your character. You get runes in Elden Ring by defeating enemies. And the tougher the enemy, the more runes they drop. And what I recommend to do in the early game in order to level up consistently is to just find a group of enemies that you're perfectly comfortable with defeating over and over again. The camp right next to this site of grace is perfect for this. You might struggle at first, but once you get the basics of combat down, this should be pretty simple. So what you want to do is you want to work your way through the camp, defeating all the enemies. And if you do die, it's okay, don't worry about it. Just make sure that you get back in and collect your runes from the ground, because you do drop them when you die, and if you die a second time, they are gone forever, and that will slow down your progress for leveling up. I recommend using Torrent, who you will also unlock by resting at this bonfire. And with Torrent, you can just swoop in and collect your runes and get back to safety if you want. But even if you're unable to defeat the whole camp without dying, as long as you're consistently killing all the enemies and picking up your runes, you'll still be accumulating runes to spend on leveling up. So as you're defeating a load of enemies, you're also going to want to know how many runes are required to level up your specific character. You can actually check this without being at a site of grace. All you need to do is press the start button and select the status menu. And on the status screen, you can see in the top left, it will tell you the required number of runes to level up your character. Once you've got enough runes, head back to any site of grace and start leveling up. In order to get the most out of each level, you're going to want to focus on specific skills. For melee characters, the best thing to focus on is going to be whatever skill determines the damage you're going to do with whatever weapon you're going to be using. We will cover more of this in future videos, but in general, if the class you chose at the start of the game has more strength than anything else, then strength is what you should be focusing on. And you're going to want to use strength weapons. If it has high dexterity, you're going to want to focus on dexterity. Another way to check what skill you should be leveling up is to check your weapon. Generally, if a weapon requires more strength than dexterity, then it's going to be a strength weapon and vice versa. And it's also worth mentioning that whatever stat your weapon has better attribute scaling for also determines what's worth leveling up. The best level of attribute scaling is S, and then it goes A, B, C, D, etc. So whichever stat your specific weapon scales with the best also determines what kind of weapon you're using. So if it has good strength attribute scaling, level up strength. If it has good dex attribute scaling, level up dex. So for this character, we're going to level up dexterity. And I would generally recommend that pretty much everyone, at least everybody that's not doing a magic build, focuses on leveling up whatever their character's main skill is for melee, at least to 20 or more before you start leveling up any other skills. Because at 20, 25-ish, that's really when you start to experience more of the benefits from leveling up your skill. Then at that point, you should start to level up either endurance, vigor, or mind. Endurance is a good one, particularly for dexterity builds, because this increases the amount of stamina you have, so that's really good for DPS. And if you're going for a high strength build, you might want to level up your vigor, because that's going to give you more HP, which will make you more tanky. And FP is obviously new to this game specifically, but at this point, if you want to use your abilities more, FP could be a good idea as well. But just a reminder, I would recommend focusing on leveling up either strength or dex to over 20 or 25 first, just as a general sort of guide before you start leveling up your HP or your stamina. Alright guys, that's just about going to do it for this one. Let me know in the comments